What do you want me
Hello!
to...
Welcome to the Honest... Oh
Oh,
no!
man. Buggered that up.
Hello,
So,
welcome to the Honest Wargamer. We're your hosts for the Nathan Prescott Monday Night Age of Sigmar show, and I'm joined by Mr. Nathan Prescott. Hello, Nathan. How are you?
hello, I'm alright, thank you. You?
I am great. Thanks for asking. It's pretty exciting. We're going to talk about Orruk Warclans. We're going to be talking about the Ironjawz and the Bone Splitters in the Big War tonight. It's going to be our talk
Cool.
through, so it's going to be very exciting. We weren't here last Monday, mainly because I was an absolute mess. I wasn't even guilty last week. I wasn't even like, oh, the lads will be missing me. I was like, I was just asleep, like, just thinking of birds flying through the sky. I was the happiest man in the world. Nate, how are you? Are you okay?
Yeah. I've thought about birds flying through the sky
Oh,
occasionally.
yeah? What have you been
Not
thinking?
often. Yeah. Lucky bastards, look at them flying around. Pooing on people.
Hello, everyone who's joined us live. If you don't know, we're in the middle of a media blackout right now. The only social media networks that seem to be working are Snapchat, TikTok, and Twitter. Facebook and Instagram are down, as is WhatsApp. They're not currently working, Nathan. So we're in what I think the internet has started to call the boomer blackout. All of the people under 24 are still fine. They're TikTok dancing at each other and sending, I don't know, not vines. That's wrong, but something.
Okay. Oh, no wonder I've had such a peaceful evening.
Oh, so nice, right?
Yeah.
Not one person has asked me
Good.
for advice on a list. It's been fantastic. Hello, Gitly. What's going on? So we're live in front of our studio audience, which is the Twitch chat. T-Man Cash, Pedro Fantastico, Nurgle Matthew, what up? Nikki DeWilliams, Gitly, Diadrin, hello, and Heinrad. Honest Wargamer is on. Doesn't really matter if other medias are down. Thanks, Heinrad. That's cute of you.
Oh,
That's
nice.
nice. Oh, nice. And also Pete Pratt. Bring back Periscope and the Periscope squad. I agree. Nathan, we're going to talk about
What's that?
Periscope
Cool.
was Twitter's live video platform. Did you ever watch anything there?
No, except it keeps asking me if I want to join People Are Talking. Is that it? Every now and again it says People Are Talking, you want to join in.
No, that's I think they're fleets. I know. I think fleets were fleeting. They're gone. There's you can now create like an audio room on. John, we'll do it now.
Yeah,
Should we do it
that's
now?
the audio
Should we do it
room.
now on Twitter? It'll be weird, but I think I can do it while we're live. Should we? Do you want to make one?
Yeah,
Should we make one?
not really,
Oh,
but yeah,
well,
sure.
no, we won't do it.
Go
Then.
on
No,
then.
no, you don't want to. I'm not doing it. I'm out.
Uh,
I'm not doing it. I refuse. Thanks, Golgotha, for subscribing. Let's go, Tanner Herbert. This is the only media I desire. Thanks, Nurgle Matthew. That's cute of you.
good.
Good.
Yeah.
Nathan, we need a quick update from you, please, before we get into the actual discourse of the show. And mainly because I
Yes.
like to drag this section out as long as possible because it fucking annoys the hell out of the YouTube thugs. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Bunch of dickheads. Shall we show them the contents of this book? Well, can you see
Is
it?
that Orcs and
Can you
Goblins
see
from
it?
Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's the same color, so I just bought this one.
It's so close. It's almost the same book.
Red spine. Yeah.
Red
there you go.
spine spells danger.
I'll do this one. It's got much better ones anyway. Rock lobbers.
Right. Anyway, Nathan, Rob, you should take Nathan through Warhammer TikTok. Nathan, if you've got some time to come over next week, let's do a show where I take you through Warhammer TikTok. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'll be into that.
Yeah. So, have you been? You were ill for a couple of weeks. Can we get an update on how you're feeling?
Oh, that was ages ago. Yeah. I'm sort of recovered from that, I reckon. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Feel good.
You're
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
chipper. Are you excited about
Yeah.
talking about this book today?
Yeah. It's pretty good. I think there's some fun things in there.
Me too.
Yeah.
Too. I'm actually.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised. Is surprised the right word? I'm not sure. Like quite keen on it. Ultimately, like I think it's still fairly polarizing, but maybe it's just because I read the Stormcast one first. But we'll talk about that in a minute. we'll just go through the news section first, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Go on.
I can do. I can tell you that I'm not keen on all the shooting from the Cruel Boys, but other than that, yeah, let's do news.
Okay, all right. Well, no, I agree with you. I think shooting could definitely take a bit of a kick in, but it's not going to. So I think
It's the mortal wounds. Yeah.
yeah. I think you're 100% correct. So the news for Age of Sigmar is actually pretty light on the ground. I think the biggest kind of rumor point at the moment is that it seems like we're still waiting on some elements of the Stormcast release. Not yet heard about the upcoming Age of Sigmar releases at the moment, and so yeah, we're waiting on some Stormcast releases, specifically the Drake Guard, which a lot of people are very excited about.
I heard it's like what's that thing called? Kickstarter. They've done a Kickstarter, really. They've put the rules out there, and now they've seen they're going to make the money, and now they've got the lads down the workshop banging them together. So sometime around Easter, maybe, or something like that. Also, dragons come in eggs. Definitely Easter. They're going to come around Easter.
They're going to come around Easter. That makes sense. How far away is that?
It's quite a long time away, but that's not a problem as far as I'm concerned. We're on the tins, good.
We are on the tins. Get one out, kid. There we go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mac Readiness, for resubscribing for a whole year. Get in, kid. Let's go. Aspron says, I may have already 3D printed some dragons. Which year? Easter which year, Nathan?
It doesn't really matter. By then, hopefully they'll have released something else which will eat dragons.
Some anti-dragon tech. What?
Yeah. And then then the workshop will have to change its tack and start making those things. And they'll never actually have made any dragons, and nobody will ever have bought them. But the rules would have triggered everybody, so it's fine.
It's like a fiat currency. It's a fiat model state. Is where we currently exist. That's what.
We will never find out what base size they're supposed to be on.
Ever,
because they'll never be released.
This is good. I like this a lot. Congratulations to the winners of the prediction in the chat. Thanks to Tristan for doing so. On will Nathan ever get on it? 100% of the voters said no, they won't. You can do a vote.
Get on what?
Just I think the show, but I think you're doing really well, Nate. So don't listen to him. MJ Hale, thanks for resubscribing. Nicky Williams says yes, but we all know dragons eat treasure. Thanks to Family Feud results. So that's important. What about people who don't celebrate Easter? When do they get them? Says Painting Tentacle. Nathan, thoughts?
That's just when the eggs come. You don't have to celebrate it. Just eggs appear.
It's true.
Whether you celebrate it or not.
Yeah. You like.
It's fine.
I mean, some people might be genuinely annoyed. They're just walking around their lawn one day, and all of a sudden there's an egg.
Fucking chocolate eggs everywhere. Yeah. What a bunch of bastards.
Imagine you're trying to slim down, and you're like, I'm trying to stay off the chocolate, and then there's just random chocolate eggs everywhere. You don't need that. It's useless.
Yeah. Rubbish.
Yeah. Apparently, Adjali says we will see the base sizes hopefully in Battle Report on Plus. There might be a Battle Report on the Plus this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
sure.
That's exciting. I don't know if
you'll just be guessing though all the time.
Like the presenter.
I mean, yeah, just like with the fucking Mork's magic mushroom. You just guess. It doesn't matter really. They'll say one thing, it'll be a different thing anyway.
That's true. They're not. Yeah. They're not really a the arse talks the elbow sort of a corporation, are they?
No, they're a models company, not a basis company.
Or a rules company, or an app company.
Definitely not one of those. Yeah.
Anyway, Speckles, what's going up?
Models and books.
Models and books. Shout out to Speckles in the chat. Rambo Squirrel, thanks for subscribing. And yes, 100% brutes I think are pretty great. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So that's the current news. We're still waiting for some models to be released. Also, multi-part Bolt Boy kits, which I think are going to be very, very popular. Still waiting for those guys to be released generally. Spleen Thief, thanks for resubscribing. So that's pretty much all there is in the way of news. Obviously, we've had events, but we've already covered that in the stat show. But one of the things I didn't get to show Nathan earlier, and I'd like to just show you guys again. So if you did miss the stat show earlier today, you'll see that we have a bunch of cool stats, thanks to Ziggy and Rob and a bunch of other guys, Tristan and all sorts. Nathan, I got to tell you about the current GITS win rate in the world. And the actual...
Oh, yeah, you were saying.
Well, the actual GITS win rate is 29%.
Gotcha.
So, not good.
Mm.
There's only actually one army worse than GITS at the moment. Or equal worst. You're actually equal dead last.
Equal dead last. Yeah.
With the beasts
all the good words.
With the Beast Chaos. Beasts of Chaos.
Oh, that's cool. Good company, I guess, if you like goats.
Yeah, oof. How do you feel about that?
Don't know. I mean, I've carried a goat around once. It wasn't that great, so no. I don't know. If they smell funny, beasts of chaos.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think you want to stand next to them for too long. So, yeah, hopefully one of us gets better.
Hopefully one of you.
Them or us.
Well, interestingly, someone this weekend went 4-1 with Beasts of Chaos. That did not happen with GITS. I think your only hope is Bill Sousa plays them at this stage.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking them to Bobo, so they're only going to get worse, hopefully.
So that's this weekend. Nathan's going to be playing GITS all weekend. The real question, the real prediction in the chat for everyone is, will Nathan complete all rounds of each game at Bobo?
No.
5 games.
0.
Will he complete all rounds? Nathan, what do you think? What's your prediction?
0 chance. I played a game the other night against Tom Fretwell.
Oh yeah, nice. I was going to ask you this next. Yeah. How did it go? He's lovely.
Yeah, he's great. I reckon it must have taken 3.5 hours, maybe.
So, the game?
Yeah, well, we were waffling on about this and that for ages.
Why did it take so long? Was it the mechanics of the game? Was it re-rolls? Like, how can you identify what you think slows you down?
Yeah, can I put my thumb on it? I reckon it's because I'm a very considered player. I like to consider things.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. And it's just not a game for considering stuff. You just got to get on with it. That's it. I reckon it's either that or... Yeah, I had too many wizards, I reckon. But it's the one I'm going to take to Bobo, probably. Got 7 wizards.
Wait, so how many wizards did you have? 7?
7,
How many are you going to take?
I'll take 7 wizards on the Bobo weekend.
You said that slowed you down.
Yeah. I'm not interested whether those guys have a great time. All my wizards will.
Hey, Bobbin, what's going on?
I was playing against Zinch as well. So it was great. Loads of magic everywhere.
Okay, great. You know your wizards help them, right?
Yeah. The one turn, because three of my wizards will double the amount of spells I cast. I cast so many spells that turn as well. I was rolling really hot. So I reckon I must have cast nearly 10 spells.
And then, doesn't that give him 10 fate points?
Yeah. He got one of those flaming things out. The one that shoots flames at people.
The Exalted Flamer or the little 3 flamers?
No, the Exalted Flamer.
Who did he burn with the Flamer?
Nobody. He didn't roll very well with it.
Oh, perfect. Can I get an update on how the game went? Like, how did it go generally?
Yeah, it was great. Great fun. He had that big fella on the dragon thing.
Archeon?
What's his name? Yeah, with the 3-headed horse dragon. Yeah. He died.
What did he die to?
Scragrot shot him with a mushroom sniper rifle.
You are literally living in a different reality to the one I live in. Like a completely different plane of existence. Like a completely different world.
He had been stabbed loads by little grots.
Okay.
Yeah. Whilst under the effects of a fungoid cloud.
Right.
So, yeah. And he had seen a doll. So it just wasn't going well for him.
So did your... You show him the Mobbit. You show him the Mobbit.
I showed him a doll,
Yeah.
and then I put a cloud on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So effectively, all of the goblins were Ren 2.
Okay, and
So
that got him.
So yeah, that shanked him.
Did you win the game?
By 1 point. Killed that bird thing as well.
Kairos.
The one that's got 2 heads, yeah. That
fella. You know that I rate the Tzeentch Archaon list as an S tier army. Like one of the most, if not the best list in Age of Sigmar.
Why do you do that? It's got that bird fella in it. He's rubbish.
It's pretty good. Okay, fine. And gets her a 30% win rate. All right, well, excellent. I'm excited to hear how your games go at Bobo. That does mean, if you guys are big fans of the show, I don't know if you remember the last time Nathan gave us a tournament report, but I'd probably clear your calendars next Monday evening. Get in maybe some slow cooked beans. Put the slow cooker on. I would get a lot of food in because we're going to be going. Oh,
you're going to start everybody panic buying now, aren't you?
Panic buying so that they can get ready for the battle report news. It's so good. Oh, amazing. Okay, great. So yeah, I might actually just record all of Nathan's games at Bobo and not stream anyone else's. Fuck everyone else. I think this is great. That was Panic Buying those slow cooked beans. You got it, Hyrad. Okay, sweet. Good. Have you done any hobby, or we can get on with the show today?
No, I did a bit more painting on the second Maw Crusher. That's about it, really. Yeah.
Okay, exciting. First time that you decided to do the second Maw Crusher. Is that having looked at the rules?
Yeah. Well, somebody wanted to borrow 2 of them, but they've changed their mind. But yeah, it looks like the double Maw Crusher list is pretty good. Possibly a triple one.
Yes, I was thinking exactly the same thing. Okay, all right, excellent. Well, let's get into the review then, and then we can just crack on with it. So we're 22 minutes in. I just made a little note for myself, so we can just put a little timestamp so the YouTube thugs are like, I can't believe I had to listen.
Did you do it on the palm of your hand or the back of your hand?
This just down there, okay. Just down there.
But won't it just slide off with all that moisturizer?
It will. It will.
Good.
It will. All right, let's talk Orruk Warclans, right? So we already did the Cruel Boys kind of like look the other week before we were at LGT, and we kind of like very much like the dragons. And to clarify, having looked through the Stormcast and the Uruk's book, they're very stripped down from what we maybe want. What I thought Age of Sigmar 3 would be more rules than we had for Age of Sigmar 2, but they're actually stripped back, so they're less rules than Age of Sigmar 2. I've talked about this already on the shows. In my opinion, Nathan, I'd like your feedback on it. In my opinion, that means that puts a lot more pressure on the War Scrolls to perform. And if the War Scrolls don't really do anything interesting or they don't have any utility, specifically, that makes them less interesting to play with. That's really important. Because if you just had, like, if there was no special abilities on any of the War Scrolls, it would make them fairly, interchangeable. And then, so it puts in my opinion, it puts lots of pressure on the War Scrolls to perform and be a little bit different. And also, with the kind of, like, narrowing down of the sub-factions, again, it means that I feel like there's less flavour, less variety inside of a book. So I'd say the Stormcast book feels like a book of like quite poor internal balance, and the way they wrote the book was because has created also less diversity. But we're also like reviewing the Orruk Warclans book. There it is. There's my copy right now, and it's actually pretty interesting because it's not one army. So, like, I think maybe if all of the books are like the Stormcast book and the Orruk Warclans book, it means when we get, like, the mixed dwarf book, like the grungy book, that'll be quite interesting because it'll be diverse because it's basically got 3 armies in, which is what the Orruk book is like. Whereas, if we get Iron Death Deepkin, for instance, and it's just IDK, then it may be less interesting because it's more like the Stormcast book, if that makes sense. Am I like... How do you feel?
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, it's more concentrated about fishy elves, very horrible, boring things. No, but I mean, it obviously it's more of a reduced range of themes than you would have in a in a combined dwarf book because you got 3 distinct flavors, whereas the Idoneth Deepkin are just dudes riding fishes under the sea.
Well, there's also turtles, and I don't know if they have an archer unit. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, yeah, and even though they have, like, in their story, they've got these guys are different to these guys, but the difference is not as much as the difference between, like Bone Splitters and Ironjawz, for instance.
Yeah, 100%. So I think this kind of like this book itself has kind of thrown me a little bit because actually the diversity is kind of there, I guess, because also the ranges are fairly small, right? Like the Ironjawz bit isn't a lot of models. The biggest one, it's also pretty telling when you read through it, and they're like front of the book, they're like all cruel boys. You will read those first. And you're like, okay. And then they're like, by the way, Bone Splitters are also here. And you're like, okay. Not that I don't think actually Bone Splitters haven't like been given some pretty fun tools around the way, but they're pretty short. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on the War Scrolls to actually do something unique or have individual roles. And actually, having read through it today, I think that there's still less command traits and artifacts and other stuff that make the things interesting. But there's a lot more, like, there just feels like there's a little bit more flavour maybe to each of the units, in my opinion. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, there is that, but also the actual, the battle traits that each different faction or sub-race or whatever they are inside that book, they're really, well, they're quite effective, especially the Ironjawz and the Cruel Boys ones, I think, are really effective. Having Mighty Destroyers is such a thematic way to play an army. It like really drives that army. And then obviously the venom encrusted poison weapons, really drives that part of that army. But then you've also got the other little things that they add on, like smashing and bashing, and the mount traits and the spell laws. And I think they just work really well in this book, personally.
I agree. I think what's nice is it's kind of like the book is now just 3 sub factions, right? It's either Cruel Boys, it's either Ironjawz, or it's the Bone Splitters, and then you could do Big War for a big mix. But you can kind of polarize it. But then when you do finally get into those subcategories of one of those 3, then you feel a little bit pushed into what to take. You know, like Big Yellers stands out pretty significantly. Ultimately, with the shooting coming from the Cruel Boys, you feel quite pushed when you go into. I mean, Ironjawz don't have any shooting, but when you go into the Ironjawz element of it, I feel like you're quite pushed into. Not that you don't want to take a Maw Crusher, because you do want to take a Maw Crusher, but like. You know, they've got some pretty cool tools inside what they have. Like,
but I mean, the tribes and the Ironjawz are fairly, like, they're more. I think they've done those better than the Cruel Boys ones, because I think all 3 of them have got interesting play.
Well, so I think what's interesting, see, again, like, I was trying to look for some uniformity versus the Stormcast one, right? The Stormcast doesn't change how you play your army at all, other than the battle line units, which is actually fairly important. Like, that is actually, like, just to be super fair, like, being able to have access to different battle line units by your sub-faction is quite cool. I really, really like that. But, like, the interesting one about the Ironjawz is it's really what utility you want. It doesn't necessarily change army composition. I think I've always wanted sub-factions to change army composition around, but I think that's probably a bit of a romantic of me, and that doesn't really ever exist, or there isn't a version of that exists. I'm trying to think through my head now of different, like maybe Skaven, when you like go pure clans, maybe is a good example. Yeah. You know, like where the.
Well, I think it works better in this book though. Yeah. Because if you are taking a combat Cruel Boys army, you probably won't take the Big Yellers. You might be more interested in taking the Slugbugs or the other fellas.
Yeah. Oh, agreed. Not.
And definitely in the Ironjawz. I mean, the Iron Suns and Choppers and the Bloodtooths. Like the Bloodtooth one really forces you towards playing Grunters. Like, get those piggies out there. So, and I think to a degree the Bone Splitters one is, although I can't remember exactly what they do, but I do think they're the army compositions. Each one has got like 3, although probably less so with the Iron Suns and the Choppers, because it's whether you want your War Chanters to do more work or if you want to mess up your opponent's battle plans by charging in their turn, which is fun.
Well, let's go through it, shall we? Let's go through it. I think that'll be instead of just kind of like beating around it. But tonight I'm drinking, ladies and gentlemen, a ginger beer, an old Jamaican ginger beer, bit of a classic. I do love a ginger beer. Someone's going to suggest to me a very fancy ginger beer, and I'll have I wasn't raised fancy, so this is pretty much cheap ginger beer. I don't know if this is a fancy one, but it's my fave.
It's very nice Jamaican ginger beer. Bit of spice rum.
Or when I was over in Nashville for NashCon in 2018, Jacob Berry introduced me to Canadian ale, ginger ale, Canadian ginger ale. I think it was that, or ginger ale or something. I think, but
Canada Dry.
Canada Dry. Oh baby, that is a great choice if you want a drink of choice. Okay. Very excited to talk about the orcs and stuff. So let's go through it, shall we? So we've done Cruel Boys. So we're going to go straight into Ironjawz. So what we'll do is we'll do it in sections. We'll do Ironjawz battle traits, the command traits, and all that other stuff. Then we'll go and talk about the the spell lore, and then the war scrolls, and then we'll go back to Bone Splitters, and then we'll start again. Right? How's that sound? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you got 3 sub factions. We'll talk about those in a moment. And then you got the Ironjawz War. Once per battle, at the start of your charge phase, you can pick 1 friendly Ironjawz unit. So this is your battle trait. So if you have the Ironjawz Allegiance, this is what you get. Until the end of that turn, add 1 to the charge rolls for friendly Ironjawz units and improve the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Ironjawz units by 1. Nathan, you play a lot of Ironjawz. You've been playing a lot of Big War and other stuff for years. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's great. So it used to give you +1 attack, but I think having the extra rend is going to be super useful in the current meta. And plus, there's a +1 to charge as well. So yeah, got to be super happy with that. I'm looking at the wrong ones. Battle traits, command traits, no.
Nathan, you're using the new app. How's it going?
Oh, it's not. Oh, it's down at the bottom.
Do you know what's quite exciting is because that's called the Ironjawz War. It's actually keyword searchable. Is Nathan comparing the old and new traits? Great question. I would say
no.
I would say the rend is better than the attacks, right?
Yeah, I would. At the moment, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
I'm happy with that trait.
I think that's good. Once per battle as well. Like, I think what's quite nice about it is you still get 2 different other allegiances, battle traits that are quite nice in Mighty Destroyers and Smashing and Bashing, and it's already a lot more than I think you get in the Stormcast one. A Stormcast one feels very vanilla, which is why I'm still expecting there to be some Stormcast expansions like we get for Space Marines. But we'll see. I could be wrong, but I feel like they're so dry, so vanilla. Like, and these do have more flavor. Like the Cruel Boy stuff is genuinely quite exciting. You know, the dirty tricks, view. Venom encrusted weapons, I guess. It's not loads.
That's not what orcs say.
View. They call it the view.
What, the orcs?
Yeah.
Sure.
What do you think they call it?
Poison weapons, lads. Not only of this venom encrusted monument, but a go or view.
I like how you got venom encrusted. You were like, saying a third word is way too much. Way too much.
Poison weapons.
Yeah.
Poison.
Okay, so I think the rend is also really good. The reason I think me and Nathan both think it, if you're new to Age of Sigmar, and for some reason you want to know why, is there's a lot of save stacking, i.e. the ability to add multiple +1s to save to different units in Age of Sigmar. So Rend 1 is basically ineffective in competitive Age of Sigmar. If you're just playing with your mates in a garage and like neither of you know the rules and you've got War Scroll cards, don't worry, we're not talking to you. Everything is good. If that's you, everything is great. Yeah, you're having the best time. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good. Mighty Destroyers. No, so this one's this is you can use this command ability. So it's a command ability in your hero phase. The model that issues this command must be an Ironjawz model, and the unit that receives it must be an Ironjawz unit. If the unit that received the command is more than 12 inches from all enemy units, you must make a normal move with that unit. If the unit that received the command is within 3 inches, so basically if you're in a fight, you must make a pile-in move with each model in this unit. Question, it says pile-in? Do we assume it's meant to also say and attack?
No, because where it started off, originally as just a pile-in move, so it was just the pile-in move. Then they gave you the attack thing in the last Warclans book, and now it looks like they've specifically taken that out again.
So I could just pile in.
Yes.
Be still my beating heart. If the unit is within 12 inches of an enemy unit and more than 3 inches away, you can do a charge.
Or you must.
You must do a charge.
Yeah.
If you fail the charge, then you're still going to get to charge in the next charge phase, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you feel about Mighty Destroyers, Nath?
Yeah. So obviously it's weakened with not being able to attack in the hero phase, but it's still such a strong ability, mainly because of the move. And now with the stand and shoot all out defense thing, being able to charge in the hero phase is super good as well.
Yeah,
because you can avoid that, because that only happens in your enemy's in the enemy's charge phase. So
okay. Well, there's some good comments coming in from the chat. Specifically, Mostin Power saying that it's good for getting around wind spirits, so the foxes for Luminous Realm Lords, and being able to pin them in because they obviously move at the end of your shooting phase. And then Pete says also really good into.
Oh, that's just a normal move, so they can't move away from you if they're in combat already. Then
who?
The wind spirits, is that 12-inch move that they do in the shooting phase? They can't use it to retreat.
I think they can use it to retreat. It's a normal move, but what Pete's what Mostin Power is saying is you're able to you can get a big movement basically, so you can kind of box them in where they weren't expecting to be boxed in effectively. There isn't many units in the game that get an effective 24-inch move, right?
Oh yeah, and and you've got the chance of doing a 36-inch move.
Yeah,
and
the reason I'm saying that is because Mega Bosses or Maw Crushers or Godrak all move 12 inches. So it's the Mighty Destroyers move plus their normal move that creates 24 inches. I think this is great. Great. Especially when we go and look at the Mega Boss and Maw Crusher War Scroll because of that voice. So the ability to issue the same command. This is a command ability. So the issue to issue the same command ability 3 times. To 3 different units is phenomenal. So 1 CP, like Nathan was alluding to earlier, you can take 3 Maw Crushers, make them all Mighty Destroyers, turn 1, forward. That's your 12 inches, move again. So you could have 3 Mega Boss or Maw Crushers, move 24 inches, turn 1.
Yeah, so the range of this as well, because it's not stated on there. So I assume if you're a totem or you're on a monster, then it's 18 inches. So it's quite a big range as well. So if you do teleport somebody into your opponent's half, you can probably still be within range of an 18-incher from your Mega Boss.
Yep.
To get an extra move in.
Oh, nice. So teleport them forward, then do a Mighty Destroyers, then move.
Then trigger a Mighty Destroyers to either make them charge or to have an extra move.
That's wild.
Likewise, you can combine it with one of the mount traits that we're going to come up with later.
Hey, so what you're saying is I pick up a Mega Boss or Maw Crusher, teleport them, put them within 18, use the command ability, or obviously you can use it itself. Mighty Destroyers charge into the Iron Drakes, let's say, or the Sentinels, let's say, so that they can't stand and shoot because I've done it in the hero phase. And then just wait until, just tick down the phases until we get to the smashing and bashing phase, Nath. Yeah.
Or the thing is, you can do that. You can even charge the screen, and then in your movement phase, you can retreat out so that you're 3 inches away. And then because you've charged earlier in the turn, you can still pile in. If that's still a rule, I'm not sure if it is a rule anymore. In the new, because that's what they used to do in AOS 2, was charge in the hero phase, retreat out. But because you've charged in the turn, you can still pile in.
Oh, I think it probably has changed now to you must charge in the charge phase, but
in the charge phase, right? Okay, so if that's the case, but I mean the other thing was, you don't have to. So you could teleport, say, a unit of brutes up, but still within 18 of your general. Bearing in mind, sometimes you're 22 apart. So your unit of brutes that you've teleported across the board can still be within 18 of your general on your side of the board. then you can trigger them to either charge or move forward again, so that they've got a smaller charge to make. So as long as they're outside of 12, then they can move up again. So now they're outside of 8, and now and then you've got your +1 to charge from your abilities anyway. So now you're only looking for a 6-inch charge. So yeah, all sorts of little shenanigans you can get up to with Mighty Destroyers, combining it with teleports and things.
Especially because it's in any point of the hero phase.
Yeah, and it's like you said, being able to trigger 3 of them off of your Mega Boss on the Maw Crusher.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's really great, and we talk about this a lot on the show. It's time to party. I'll just throw a quote out for everyone. Movement is king, always. And I love how much Nathan gets into it. Once there's a faction he's invested in. He's like, by the way, I don't know if you've 22-point-inched our 8-inch. It's great. Anyway, so yeah, it's really good. Thanks, Hawkeye. Big shout out. Thanks for subscribing, resubscribing, and also Harry and Dudar Day. Big love to you guys. So Mighty Destroyers is fantastic. We'll talk about uses of that in a minute. And then Smashing and Bashing is also excellent as well. In the combat phase, after a friendly Ironjawz unit is fought, if any enemy units were destroyed by an attack made by that unit, you can pick one friendly Ironjawz unit that has not yet fought in the combat phase that's within 3 inches of an enemy unit. The friendly Ironjawz unit fights immediately. So effectively, if you kill something with one Ironjawz unit, you automatically can chain activate all of your other units, right?
Yeah, the next one fights, and if they kill what they're fighting, then they can ask one of their compadres to get stuck in, and then they'll get stuck in, and so it can just chain along.
Yeah, what's the narrative for this? When the Ironjawz mob mashes up the enemy, it inspires other mobs to do the same. So, you duff someone up, and the other guy's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to duff him up.
That looks great, let me have a go! Oh, yeah.
By the way, Nathan, it's still charge, move in, same turn, pile in, by the way. So Prop Joe. So that thing you were talking about earlier is in effect.
So you can retreat and still pile in.
Yeah, Pete in the chat also said the same. So big love to him.
Wow.
Smashing and Bashing is fantastic if you can line stuff up, especially in an MSU meta. Now, in the Garg meta, so in the Gargant meta, it's not quite as effective. But it is pretty solid if there happens to be a bunch of MSUs knocking around, right?
Yeah. Yeah, or if you think you can fire up one of your dudes to knock a Gargant over, then maybe it can happen.
Rule of Cruel in the chat, if you keep reading Unleash Hell, it says in the shooting phase, or at the end of the charge phase. It says when a unit finishes a charge move, but the commandability is used in the charge phase.
At the beginning. So actually before the rule, in the little sentence that's before the 2 rules, it says in your opponent's charge phase you can use the following command abilities.
Yeah, so that's when you can use it, Rule of Cruel. So you can't do it against the hero phase movement. Okay, so some pretty strong allegiance abilities. Mighty Destroyers has got loads of tactical play, loads and loads and loads. When to use the Ironjawz War is great, and then Smashing and Bashing in the right situation works really, really nicely. So then we got the command traits. So the Mega Boss only, you got Hulking Brute, which is D3 mortal wounds when you charge on a 2-up, whatever. Mega Bossy, this general can issue the Mighty Destroyer's command even if it has already been issued by another friendly model in the same phase. That's excellent if you really want to compound that. And then Mighty War Leader, this general calls an Ironjawz War. You can reroll charge rolls for friendly Ironjawz units wholly within 12 inches of them until the end of the turn. So I wonder which one of those 2 do you like, Nath, the most? Not Hulking Brute, ignore that, because that's whatever.
What do you mean not Hulking Brute? I like it. I like them all. The thing with Hulking Brute is you can combine it with your Stomp. And then you get extra on the Stomp as well, so you can almost definitely get the extra Stomp off sometimes.
Yeah, so what Nathan's talking about is there's a rule on the Mega Boss and Maw Crusher and Godrak's War Scroll called Hulking Brute. No, yeah.
No, it's called Oh
Damn it.
man,
Destructive
it's
bulk. Destructive bulk.
yeah, that's the
Destructive
yeah,
bulk.
yeah.
And what that does is when you charge, you basically do some mortal wounds. And if or you have to use.
Yeah, you have to destroy. You have to have no models left within
No,
3.
no, sorry.
So
I
the
mean,
rule has changed.
yeah, it has changed, but do you have to
Yeah,
do what the fuck is the monstrous reaction called?
it's a stomp.
Stomp.
Yeah, it has. So yeah, so it's tied to a
But you
stomp.
don't have to do stomp. That's good.
No, no. So you don't have to do
Mm.
stomp. And obviously it won't work on hunters in the heartlands as well. So it's not as powerful as it was before, but it's still a fun little mechanic, especially for clearing screens.
Yeah.
So if you combine that with the hulking brute, so you could do the hulking brute first, then do the stomp, which happens at the end of the charge
Yeah.
phase
So
anyway.
that's 2d3
Yeah,
mortal wounds.
yeah. Plus the extra wounds that you do because of the
Hulking brute
the
rule. No.
the
Destructive bulk rule.
destructive
Yeah.
bulk rule. Yeah, and then you've got the chance of making the extra d6 and possibly hitting something else.
Yeah. So again,
So,
just to clear, if you kill the unit with the hulking, destructive bulk rule, so you do the d3 mortal wounds, you can add an additional 3 to that, so d3 plus 3. So if you do 6 mortal wounds and you kill something, let's say a unit, you get to move an additional d6-inch move. Which has changed.
and
It's
then,
been a change. I'm not sure if we like it
yeah.
or not. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, it's not as powerful as it was. But obviously the other two are a lot easier to use, Mega Bossy, because the Mighty Destroyer's commandability is just a beautiful thing. So if you can use it again, if you can use it twice, that's really, really strong. Although the fact that you can trigger 3 units, maybe you're going to run out of units to put it onto. Maybe not.
I mean, but
And then
that's pretty fantastic because the army doesn't
yeah,
have any shooting, right? Like, so it's got no shooting in it, so it wants to get into your opponent's grill pretty early. And one of the things that we've seen, like with Mega Gargants, or we've seen it loads of times, swamp lists or Alpha Strike lists, are different names depending on what they're trying to achieve. But effectively, pushing your whole army up right into your opponent's grill turn 1 puts all the pressure on them. Phenomenal board control to stop deep striking units. Like, that's pretty impressive. The board is generally smaller anyway, so you can like zone out the board quite nicely. Also pretty nice for putting a bunch of like brutes forward, because they can go quite fast.
So your infantry is fairly slow. So yeah, being able to move them twice is pretty good. So yeah. The fact is that you can, if you use that, then you're effectively being able to trigger 6 units if you've got the more crushers in the right spots.
Yeah.
So which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then the Mighty War, rerolling charges is pretty strong, really. So you using it's really tempting. If you've got an alpha list and you've got the 3 units, it's quite tempting to go with that one because you don't want to pitch up there and then you're going to be using all your command points for the rerolls. You want to be using the command points so that you can buff the units up in combat because you can shout 3 times and do all sorts of lovely things. So, yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I think having Mega Bossy so you can just I don't know. I think you're choosing between Mega Bossy and the Mighty War Leader, especially because, like you say, we see Hunter in the Heartland so much. So because of that, actually, Destructive Bulk is, in my opinion, not just a bit worse, but like really bad. But
it's
a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
And then so then you've got so this is the command traits, by the way, and then you've got Touched by the War. So this is just for wizards. Touched by the War, which is before attempting to cast a spell, you can put D3 mortal wounds to a unit within 6 inches, so it can be yourself, and if you kill yourself, you can't cast a spell, or another unit around you. And then what you're able to do is add that to your casting roll, which is pretty successful. It's not my favourite thing, by the way, in the Orruk Warclans book. The Orruk Warclans book has got, in my opinion, the best build in Age of Sigmar. I'm just going to point that out there right now. Yeah, and it's in the Bone Splitter build. We'll come to that later. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But you take 6 of those motherfuckers and you just have the best day ever. Yeah, but we'll come back to that. Yeah, so this is pretty good, right? For Foot of Gawk. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, Foot of Gawk, or to make sure you get that teleport off. Because, the teleport is still so strong. So Hand of Gawk. The Great Green Hand of Gawk.
Yeah, and like Benjamin's pointing out in the chat, thanks Benjamin. Of course, you can take Arcane Tome, which is an artifact that you get in the core rules. You can give that to your Mega Boss or Maw-Crusher, and then they become a wizard, which is pretty cool. And then that also means that you can take either of these two as well. Master of the Weird is you can pick one extra spell from the Lore of the Weird if you want to. So you could have a 2. You can only have a 1 cast Mega Boss or Maw-Crusher, but they'll know 2 spells. Or you can have Touched by the Wild, which I think is kind of interesting in the right situation. Then Artifacts of Power. You've got the Armor of Gawk, Destroyer, and the Boss Skewer. This is on the Mega Bosses only. The bearer has a ward, a 6-up ward for the Armor of Gawk, and you can add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by the bearer. However, you must subtract 2 inches from the bearer's move characteristic. I hate that. All of that's rubbish. Let's just move on from that, in my opinion. Destroyer, pick 1 of the bearer's melee weapons. Once per battle at the start of the combat, you can add 3 to the damage characteristic of that weapon until the end of the phase. Pretty certain that's your favourite, Nath.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure if I did give, Destroyer's good, yeah.
Because you could take the Mega Boss and Maw-Crusher, right? Give him the Arcane. Oh no, you can't give him the Arcane.
You'd have to take the Destroyer, yeah. But you could, get the War Chanter to chant him up, and then he gets this weapon, so he could be doing 6 damage with his chopper. So
yeah, agreed. And then you got the Boss Skewer. Add 1 to the Bravery characteristic of friendly units while they're within 18 inches, and subtract 1 from Bravery characteristic of enemy units while they're within 1 inch. So just get rid of that. So your options are Destroyer or Amulet of Destiny or
Destroyer.
Arcane Tome.
As
your 3 options. But then if you've got the Wizard, is there not 1 for Wizards? Lol.
No, they've lost there. Yeah, they had some really good ones, but they've gone. So that's fine.
Is it fine? I feel like you could have added 3. Like, does it break? Like, I complained as much as anyone when I had to read. Oh, so you're an Arcanite wizard. Okay, let me read the 6 artifacts for you. Oh, you're a demon wizard. Let me read the 6 for you. Like, I get it, but I feel like 3 isn't much. Like, there's a gap in the page. This is just empty.
They had 3 before, which were really good. So, well, at least 2 of them were pretty good.
Anyway, I just think that they could have put the effort in. They've only spent an afternoon writing this anyway. Like, what's 5 more minutes before they get the tram home? Is all I say.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they could have copied and pasted the old ones. That was pretty good fun.
They could have done that. All right, so we're going to talk about the Lore of the Weird, which is the spell lore. So, incredible. Well, maybe we'll start them backwards. Mighty Headbutt is rubbish, so we'll just skip that. Yeah. Basham Lads is great.
It's really hard to pick which spell you're going to take. I don't think you... I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Carry on. Basham Lads is great.
Well, the important point to note for everyone at home, you're like, oh, why do you have to choose? So for some reason, your weird knob is a huge wizard is a 1-cast wizard, which is pretty disappointing. I genuinely, I give this book it goes down a whole point, not for just making him a level 2 wizard. Like, why? Why not just have a level 2 wit? Like, does it hurt anyone? I don't think so. But Basham Lads is cast on an 8, and if successfully cast until your next hero phase, you can add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Ironjawz units that are wholly within 16 inches of the caster. And I got to say that this is a pretty good Arcane Tome on a Maw-Crusher sort of artifact, where you cast Basham Lads, maybe, and then that +1 to wound in a bubble is pretty significant if you're playing pure Ironjawz. Obviously, if you're playing Big War, you just ignore that and you get the +1 to wound.
Except that it's quite hard to get that +1 to wound now. It's quite hard to get the points up to there. Yeah. So you might be better off taking the spell anyway. It is cast on an 8, so it's hard to cast. So if you're gonna try and cast this, you're probably gonna want that +1 to cast ability as well.
Yeah.
Because they've got no other way of getting pluses really. So
agreed. And then you've got the great big green hand of Gawk, which is a teleport cast on a 7. Had its range reduced? Is it within 12 now?
And a range of 12. It might have been reduced. I can't remember, to be honest. Okay. I think it might be reduced. I think it was 18 before, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Or it might even have been 24 because the Gets one is 24. So, yeah.
And then you've got teleport's fantastic, like we talked about already. The way the teleport, the way it interacts with the rules anyway, with some of the other things, and the teleport is just always great. Teleport is just always great, so we don't need to.
Yeah.
It was 24 before. I thought it was.
Yeah.
So that's a
24.
big change down from 24 to 12, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. And you still can't teleport them out of combat either. So yeah, it's fairly restrictive one, but teleport is just such a strong spell.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So.
But it's not Foot of Gawk, is it, Nath?
So yeah, one of the most terrifying spells. Cast on a 10.
Yeah, let's do it.
Range 18. D6 mortal wounds, and then it just keeps on going on a 4-up. Yeah, you can't stomp across the whole army now. You just pick the one unit, but it's still pretty tasty.
So cast on a 10. But if you do cast it, you do D6 mortal wounds, and you keep rolling a 4-up, and you keep doing D6 mortal wounds. Now, is it going to happen reliably? No. Should you build for it? No. So every destruction player right now at home listening is like, "Fuck you, Rob. This is all I'm gonna do." Yeah, like people are gonna have like Foot of Gawk, like. Maybe people are going to carry, like, green feet that they, like, write their, like, kill score on, like, weird shit, yeah, which I'm here for. Like, I'm really here for it, like a weird foot that people write.
There used to be a cutout thing, didn't there, in this book? Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
There's a green foot that you can cut out. Oh, can you see it? Whoop.
Yeah, there it is.
The green foot. And also, if you look next to it, there's a fallen giant for when he falls over. The old templates. So good.
So, actually, a pretty nice spell lore compared to some of the other spell lores that we've looked at, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of tempting spells in there. I think you're always probably going to go for the teleport spell, because that wins games.
Yeah, of course. I think probably I think you even take Foot of Gawk before you take Basham Lads. Basham Lads is an 8 in a magic heavy meta, and it's hard to cast. So Viking in the chat says, "Ran a Foot of Gawk more Chris this weekend. Fun was had." Sheldog says, "I played against Ironjawz once. He had a single one-cast wizard with portals. It was a 2-turn setup with no pluses to cast. Those destruction players will go to all lengths." Greg, you are so correct. Yeah, literally, destruction players are like, "I need to do 18 things, but if I do and I roll a 4-up, D6 more wounds." Yeah. Fucking watch this.
Take your toys off.
Take your toys off, mate. Just all wrong.
So good.
So Lord of the Wind's pretty good. Okay, the sub-factions for Ironjawz. Iron Sons, Bloodtooths, and the Choppers. So Iron Sons, you can use his commandability at the... So this is just... You don't get anywhere near what you did. No artifacts. Some of the commandability, some of them just effects. They're pretty, like, small. They really wanted to fit it into this one page. So they chopped it down. And this is all right, get 'em. You can use this command ability at the end of the enemy charge phase. The unit that receives the command must be a friendly Iron Sons unit that's within 12 inches of an enemy unit and more than 3 inches from all enemy units. The Iron Sons unit can attempt to charge. So you effectively have a 12-inch kind of bubble for like charging in. So this is quite nice if you had an army that was full of screens, which you don't. So I see the utility of this being lower, but I guess it means like someone charges 1 Megaboss or more Crusher, you can charge him with the other 2, maybe? What?
Yeah,
that's
it. Or yeah, I mean, if there are those shooting armies, and if you get your 3 more Crushers into their back lines, and it is a shooting army, they're not going to want to charge you.
It's true,
because they're shooter dooters, and so after they finish popping their shots at you, if there's anything left, you can wreak havoc in their back lines. They really have to start backing up quite a lot, otherwise they're going to end up it just means it's really good for more Crushers. So if you're taking a triple more Crusher list, then probably want to go Iron Sons, because it just means the more Crushers, once they're going to fly over to you straight away, and they're going to charge you, and then they're just not going to stop charging you ever.
It's true. It's super true, especially again because it's a commandability. The fact that more crushers can issue one commandability and affects 3 units is a huge combination piece. So and it's nice utility, right? Like really, by being Iron Suns, you do one thing. Does it change up your army loads versus others? Maybe it doesn't. We'll read the others and we'll kind of have a chat about it.
Yeah.
So this is Bloodtooths. They've got Hunt and Crush. Someone wants me to do it in the accent of a orc, so here we go. At the end of the combat phase, friendly Bloodtooth Gore Grunters units that fought in that phase. It's too late. At the end of the combat phase, friendly Bloodtooth's Gore Grunters units that fought in that phase and are within 3 inches of enemy units can make a pile-in move. In addition, those that fought but are not within 3 inches of an enemy unit can make a normal move or attempt to charge. But they've already fought, right?
Yeah.
So
it's quite an interesting mechanic with the extra movement you're getting. I think you're gonna have to play it a few times to see if what utility you get out of it. Is it gonna be? Are you gonna use it to be able to fight stuff off of objectives and move on to them, that sort of thing?
I don't really see this as having and also you're taking Gore Grunters, which is great. And I like the diversity. You're like, oh, cool, I'm going to take Gore Grunters. But I think you'll take them and you'll be like, I'd much rather have All Right Get 'em, which applies to everything. Which is the Iron Suns one. So, it just doesn't... you can pin things in. I'm not so thank you, Hawkeye, in the chat for saying you could pin stuff in. And pin stuff in is great, but I could also... I don't know. I feel like the counter charge is better.
Yeah. Also, you're doing some more wounds when you charge.
Yeah, from
these guys.
Yeah, from the Iron Suns.
No, and these guys.
From the Bloodtooths. Yeah.
Yeah, from the Gore Grunters do mortal wounds as well when they charge.
Yeah. And also, I guess the pigs, they're 5 wounds apiece. They come in units of 3, so it's 15 wounds on a 4-up armor save. They're not unsurvivable. They're pretty tanky, so they are good for pinning in.
They're worth 2 models each on objectives as well.
Again, it gives you some utility. I'm not as excited about that one. And then the Choppers, they've got the rule Rabble Rousers. When you use the Violent Fury ability for a friendly Choppers War Chanter, and the Violent Fury, by the way, is you pick a unit within 15 inches, wholly within 15 inches. You give them +1 damage to their melee attacks. You can pick up to 3 different friendly Choppers Brutes or Ardboy units in any combination to be affected by the ability instead of 1 friendly Ironjawz unit. So you can pick 3 units and buff them up. So 1 War Chanter is now 3 War Chanters, or 2 War Chanters is 6 War Chanters. But it only works on Brutes and Ardboys, etc. Thanks, Sumpworks, for resubscribing. I think this is great. I think this is really good. And I'm torn between...
Yeah, if you're going for an infantry list, then this one's quite interesting. So I think Iron Suns is if you're going for multiple more crushers. Not sure on the Gore Grunter Bloodtooth one, but I think it will have utility, and it's probably quite subtle. It's not an obvious thing. And then this one is if you got your infantry lads, your brutes out there, and a few Ardboys, then buff them up and get them smashing and bashing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't think Bloodtooth works in my head. And Iron Suns and Choppers. And Choppers is quite a nice stack, right? So I have 1 Mega Boss or More Crusher, backing up some big bricks of Brutes. Then I've given them all +1 to hit from the Commandability, and then I've buffed them all from one War Chanter. So my economy, my resource economy is super low. I am going to talk about this at the end of the book, but I guess I'll highlight this now. I mean, none of this book works because you lose all of your... everyone's like, I can't wait to use all my Swamp Caller Shamans. I'm like, they're all going to be dead from the Sentinels. You're like, I can't wait for my War Chanter who's dead to buff up my units. None of it matters, which is why I think Nathan's right for his brain moving towards Iron Suns and Triple Maw Crusher, because you're like, cool, you can just swamp them early. Because the one thing that those Luminous lists don't tend to do super well is push you out of their territory. They castle up, especially the Teklian versions. They castle up and they block. But then you might get blocked by the foxes. Not sure. I feel like the Iron Suns is the way to go, right? The choppers is like nice in a world of not sentinels, but they exist, so it doesn't matter. I think. But anyway, some fun stuff is taking some mount traits. So your mount can get some traits, and that is toughen, monster only. Unless this model has a number of wounds allocated to it that exceeds half its wounds characteristic, use the top row. It's like they forgot about the commandability you get for fighting in Gore, so we can ignore that for this year. Maybe next year we'll talk about it again. Fast stun. Once per battle in your hero phase, this model can make a normal move. Nathan, you like this one?
Yeah, so this one is one that lets you get right across the board and charge them in your hero phase. So you can do your faster move. Then you can do your Mighty Destroyers move, or charge, basically. And so if you did your move, then in your movement phase you can move again. So you could go 36 inches on a Maw Crusher.
Which does fly, so if they've screened badly or zoned badly, you've got so many options, right?
Yeah. Get you right around the corner, or else you're charging in there. So you could teleport a unit.
Yeah.
With the Hand of Gawk, and then get your fast up move next to them, and then activate your Mighty Destroyer so you can charge with both of those units. And then drag a Maw Crusher up behind you as well, or something like that.
Loads of options. It's really good.
Yeah.
Meenan, you do D6 mortal wounds instead of D3 when you do Stomp, which ties in quite nicely with that command trait we talked about earlier, which is nice.
Yeah.
So
and the Destructive Bulk, yeah.
And Destructive Bulk. Loudon, monster only when you carry out the raw monstrous rampage with this model, pick all enemy units within 3 inches of this model instead of 1. This is pretty good, apart from they also have created Hunter in the Heartlands Battalion, so it's really not that good at all. Like, it's not that it's not good, it's just there's a counter out there, and all of the key units are in Hunters in the Heartlands, right?
Well, the thing is, though, a lot of the top lists at the moment are all one-drop, so they don't have Hunters in the Heartlands. So it does mean you can get stuck into them. So, yeah, there is that. Those people that are relying on the Battle Regiment are not going to have any Hunters of the Heartland units.
True.
And they're the top lists at the moment. They're all one-droppers, aren't they?
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about really quickly, I'll just give you guys some stats.
Or low droppers. They're normally like 1 or 2 droppers, aren't they?
Yeah, let's look at this stats from the stats center just really quickly so you guys can see. Luminous Realm Lords, as you can see, 80%. So if you're playing Luminous Realm Lords in a competitive setting, and the list is always 30 Sentinels plus something else. Sometimes it's 20 and 10, sometimes it's 50 Sentinels, sometimes it's tech list, sometimes it's whatever, but there's a bunch of Sentinels. And they go for a low drop. Just to quickly see what we're talking about here and why I was talking about the War Chanters and the Swamp Caller Shaman and everything else. So if you're playing with them in a competitive setting, Luminous Realm Lords, they have an 80% of their matches end with them going 3-2 or better. 3-2, 4-1, 5-0. 80%. 80%. Compared to Gitsnaith, which is 10%.
Yeah, we play real Warhammer.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. But the important point to note about that is if we go and actually look at the stats for Luminous Realm Lords really quickly, and like what Nathan was just alluding to. So Battle Regiment, in those lists that we looked at, where 80% of them are doing that well, 87% of those lists are in Battle Regiment, which means making the list as low drop as possible. So you turn 1, they can shoot out all of your key pieces so that you can't engage. Your Swamp Caller Shamans, your War Chanters, etc. So those buff pieces don't really exist in Age of Sigmar at the moment, which I think is why they get their results so good. But the win rate is only 64%, which is interesting. Most in Power, 100% agree with that statement. I think actually they push a lot of armies down, but just by existing. But you're right. I mean, 64% win rate is still huge. Like it's in the oh shit category of, and also Hawkeye. Hence why Gargants are good. So I've talked about this loads on the show already in the past few months. But effectively, you write a list to beat Gargants, and then someone just shoots all your characters that you're using to buff up units to kill the Gargants. So then you're like, oh. So then you try and write a list to go and beat the Sentinels, and then the Gargants are just like, can you kill me? And you're like, nah, I probably can't kill you actually, mate. Like, it's pretty embarrassing, if I'm honest. So it's a real, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get some like real performance anxiety when it comes up to Gargants. Excuse me, mate. You don't seem to be, you're not really rocking my world.
Performance is just lacking in performance, yeah. Guess size does matter, maybe, maybe not. Who knows?
So it's pretty embarrassing, ultimately, the Gargant thing. And like you guys in the chat are pointing out, yes, 64% is very, very strong. I'm going to wait till we get all of the tournament results for Age of Sigmar 3 before I go on any sort of hell-raising adventure. Anyway, let's go back. All those stats are proprietary, so like they're stuff that we put together. We will be doing some bigger, deeper stats deep dives in the future for you guys. Anyway, so we've talked about Loudon. And then Weirden. This model has a 4+ ward against mortal wounds caused by spells and abilities or endless spells, but you would obviously just take the... I mean, that's not bad, right? The Weirden one?
It's not bad. I think it's probably not as good as it used to be, but it's still quite all right if you want to try and make a more resilient, more crusher. But you probably, if you're going to do that, then you'll probably use the 5-up after the amulet. But if you're not taking that, I mean, it's hard to look past the fast stun really for your more crusher. But I mean, if you're looking at Cruel Boy rides, then you might be tempted by something else.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Right, let's talk about Smellion. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons that target this model if it has not made a charge move in the same turn. So in the chat we got gorgeous Hawkeye saying, who by the way his hair is just fucking absolutely smashing at the moment. Love a bit of Hawkeye when I see him. Minus 1 to hit in combat, but if you haven't charged, I feel like you're always charging with this army.
Yeah, definitely. So not for Ironjawz units. So again, maybe the Cruel Boy units want to have smelly rides, but not the Ironjawz. Sod that.
Yeah, I agreed. All right, so have you got a favourite? Twitch chat, what's your favourite mount trait? You got
fast on.
Yeah, of course.
Fast on.
Yeah, because again, it's movement. Like you throw me and Nathan at any book, we're going to talk about movement and teleports first, always. Yeah, and then Nathan's going to start talking about damage, and I'm going to start talking about weird janky shit. That's like where we go. But we both meet at the middle. That's our happy place. Is as much movement as possible. Although weirdly, we both play movement for dwarfs. Go on, Dave, what you saying?
Yeah, but we like to move them around. But yeah, it's quite interesting that some of them are monster only. So some of them, like, obviously it doesn't affect Ironjawz.
Yeah.
Because they only ride monsters. But like some of the other people don't ride only monsters. Some of them ride weird looking rats. I think one of the Bone Splitter Wizards rides a pig, so he can probably get one of those on there if he wanted, because it just is a mount.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you could have a fast on pig, or a smelly pig, or a weird pig.
Okay.
Or a weird rat.
Hawkeye with the problematic language in the chat says, I'm undecided. My mind's telling me fasten, but my body is telling me meanin'. All of that is wrong. So Hawkeye, I can't believe you made me do that in the chat. So, right, let's look at the War Scrolls. So that's everything that you get going into being Ironjawz, basically. Let's look at the War Scroll. So you've got Gordrak and you've got the Mega Boss. Now, Gordrak is very expensive. He can't take traits. Most importantly, he doesn't have a ward. I don't know, like, I'm not even going to read everything out at the minute. I don't know how you feel, Nate, but I feel like effectively you're just making your army worse because he's too many points, and you can, like, a Mega Boss or More Crusher with the Amulet is just better than Gordrak because he survives longer to do more, is how I feel. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't even have the option of taking the Ripfus, so he's on a 4-up save, as opposed to you could make your... you could have your More Crusher quite easily on a 3-up. If you take the Rip Fist, so he doesn't have that ability. The only thing really that's in his favor is that, I mean, he's still got the same thing about the 3 units, so he's not any better at that. He's still got strength from victory, all of that. So the only thing that he brings to the table is that he's got Smasher and Cunning. So he's got the options of doing mortal wounds to enemy heroes.
And wizards.
Heroes. Or,
and his Maw Crusher's got one
wizards.
extra attack, and he's got
he's got some extra wounds.
Yeah, he's got 2 more wounds. No?
Yeah, but he's on a 4-up save, whereas quite often I think you're going to see them on a 3-up save.
Yeah. I think you won't see him. He's too many points. By the way, I've immediately skipped Kragnos. I'd like you all to know. If you're running Kragnos, I respect you. No, that's not what I mean. I like you. That's what I mean. I like you. Yeah, I like you a lot.
I think you're freaky.
And I like you a lot. But do I respect you? Probably not. But I like you. So just be conscious of that.
You're freaky.
Right, the Mega Monster Maw Crusher. So going to be a key point in Ironjawz / Big War armies you're going to play against. 18 wounds with a 4-up save. You're never going to see that version because they've got like...
You say that.
Shut up, Nate. Shut up. Right. Right. Anyway, I suppose there's one idiot in every village, and 2 in mine because I was there. Right, but if this unit is armed with a Boss Chopper and Rip-Tooth Fist, it has a save characteristic of 3, not 4. So that does mean that you can still do a Mystic Shield down to a 2+. You can do In Their Finest Hour or All Out Defense. So you can be ignoring. You can do that save stacking. I know Nicky DeWilliams. That's the worst part, right? So I think you're always going to see the 3-up variant. So whatever, like build your Mega Boss and Maw Crusher with it. I quite often, when I see someone who's actually built it with a Boss, Gore, Hacker, and Chopper, I actually make them take their model off. I'm like, sorry, mate, that's a 4-up save on that guy. So your list's illegal. Get him off the table. I'm fucking sick of this. Sick of this, Nathan, is what I say.
My problem is that I've built mine with the Boss Choppers, so none of them are carrying the spear, the Gore Hacker one. Neither of them are carrying a Gore Hacker. They both got Boss Choppers in one hand, and then they've got motherfucking big axes in the other hand. So, it could be called a Rip Fist, maybe, or it could be.
So what you're saying is your model is 100% illegal.
Yeah, it's got no options. It's not carrying any of these weapons.
Take your toy off, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. What's this? What is this?
I agree. I'm not. That's only relating to a story where I played at Warhammer World once, and someone pointed at a Gordrak and was like, "Sorry, mate, you've actually built him as Gordrak, and you're playing him as a Mega Boss or Maw Crusher, so you got to take him off." The event staff made him take him off, and it was the funniest shit I've ever seen. Because I honestly don't think. Like the Pepsi challenge. I want to be like.
I saw at Warhammer World somebody turned up with a model who he claimed was Carl Franz, and he didn't have the right hammer. He had a sword.
That was me. And the event staff made me snap. Well, they didn't make me. They were like, "Oh, you can't use him as Carl Franz. He's got a hammer, not a sword." I was like, "Actually, it's the essence of Galmaraz, not actually Galmaraz anymore because it's fucking magic because it's the end times." But I snapped it off anyway, and I beat everyone. The fucking punks, Nath. But that's a different thing. Yeah. That's because. Anyway, I really like those guys. They're terrible people. Not only for those decisions and not for any life choices. I'd like to be clear. Right, okay. And this was in the old days. They've got a new event manager now called Steve Wren, who's a fucking treasure. If you've never met him, I would go to bat for Steve Wren all day. I think Steve Wren is fantastic. And one day me and Steve Wren are going to look at each other in the eye. It's never happened yet in the 6 years I've known him. But one day...
Yeah.
Look at Steve Wren and nod. I'll be like, "Yes, Steve Wren, you're great."
Just say yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anyway, Mega Muscle Maw Crusher has got 18 wounds with a 3-up save because you're taking that, whatever, which means that you've got a shooting attack, which is fine. It's got Rend, who cares? But he's got the Boss Chopper and Rip Tooth, which is 7 attacks base, 3s, Rend 1, damage 2. And then they've got 8 attacks if it's unwounded from the actual Maw Crusher. 3s and 3s, Rend 2, damage 3, which is genuinely a fantastic profile for a monster. The Rend 1 is rubbish. Obviously, you can call the Big War at some point, so it's going to be up to Rend 2. But fantastic on the Mighty Fists and Fail, right? Because that's so effective. If you use In Their Finest Hour, it's going to be 2s and 2. Well, plus all out attack, it's going to be 2s and 2s, Rend 2, damage 3. That's phenomenal, right? Phenomenal outputs. 24 damage potentially just from that. I love that. Yeah,
and the fact that you can combine the shooting attack with the destructive bulk as well. So if they do have a 10-man screen, there's a chance you'll go through that and still get your extra move. So that's pretty good. I think you're going to see lists with quite commonly. I think you're going to see double Maw Crusher lists, and it's tempting to take triple Maw Crusher lists as well.
So, someone's asking, is the lower Rend, for instance, specifically on the character, those 7 attacks that are only Rend 1? It's not the Rend 1. Rend 1's much worse than it was, but it's still nice that it's there. It would be we would be really bigging up the Mega Boss, who we're already bigging up anyway. If that character attack was Rend 2, damage 2, but it's not.
But yeah, bearing in mind that it will be Rend 2 one turn of the game more than unless he's dead.
A fairly crucial turn as well, right?
Yeah, probably the first turn. when there's 3 of them and they're sat right there in front of you. I think we'll do a war now.
Turn 1. Okay. By the way, Mighty Destroyers. By the way, Big War. Turn over.
By the way, this guy's got a destroyer axe and he's just turning it on.
My fucking God.
Where's the switch? There we go. Switch. Oh, this is now damage 6, this axe.
Destruction Warhammer is just the best place to be, right? It's just like Mega Gargant players just moving dudes forward. Ironjawz guys just 3 warring dudes, turn 1, and then Gits players be like, I've cast 7 spells. I'm not going to win this game, but I'm here. Yeah, it's brilliant. What a great Grand Alliance of people.
Just waiting for the moon to come. Just you wait.
Where is it? It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't do anything useful, but it's there. Yeah.
It's coming.
Anyway, so
going back to your point about the loadout, the 3-up save. I think if you are taking multiple Maw Crushers, you might have one that is a blender. So he might go with the extra attacks, and then you've got a more defensive one, especially if you take in 3.
Okay. Okay.
So
right.
Like an attack Maw Crusher and then 2 just regular Maw Crusher. Yeah.
As opposed to the other 2 non-attack Maw Crushers.
Okay, an attack violent Maw Crusher and then just violent Maw Crushers.
Good. This one's red. Why? He's the most attacky he's the most violent of the violent ones.
Yeah, he's really angry.
Well, I think
and these guys are just really angry too.
Right, so he's got some cool abilities. So he can fly, which is fantastic, and Destructive Bolt, which we've talked about. Basically, if you carry out a Stomp, which is a monstrous reaction, you do D3 mortal wounds. That's what Stomp does. I think you do Stomp. It's a 2+ for the D3 mortal wounds, right? Or is it just...
That's right, yeah.
And then what you do, that D3, you add, there's a chart, you add the number, and it starts out at 3, so it'll be D3 plus 3. If you kill a unit by doing those mortal wounds, you get to move an additional D6 inches, then you carry out another Stomp with this unit, even though you've already carried out a Stomp as well. So basically, if you wipe out a unit within 3 inches, or you can wipe out any models within 3 inches, you get to do an additional D6-inch move, and then do another Stomp. Now, it sounds great. It's way worse than it was. And like we've said, Hunter in the Heartlands and other stuff, I can't see it coming into effect loads, especially because of the types of people that play Ironjawz. But, what do you think, Nath? You're the guy that plays it more.
Yeah, and it's restricted now. I think you can. So you used to be able to just carry on,
The one
but it's
time.
just the one time it looks like. At least that's
Me
my
too.
reading of it. And it's so normally it would be another charge as well. So it's 2d6, whereas this is just d6. So it's just becoming harder and harder to make it do what it used to do. I mean, yeah, towards the end of the game, if the Maw Crusher was still alive, he could quite easily go through 4 units because they're all depleted, and he'd just be charging around, banging things. So, yeah, it's definitely weaker than it was before, and even like I've mentioned a few times, going through a screen. But now the problem is that it's only a D6 inch, so if you're moving 1 inch, it's crap.
Agreed. I've been asked to define the type of people that play Ironjawz. No problem. They're the sort of people that when they walk into a pub, they ask, "Do you have one of those machines where you can punch something and it shows you how strong you punch?" That's the sort of people that play Ironjawz. Like their eyes light up when they see one of those punch machines, and they're like, "Oh my god!" They'll spend like 30 quid on it. They'll just be like, "Let's go, another one. Come on, you try."
Smashing and bashing.
Hey, Shugo. Anyway, right. So, Destructive Bolt we talked about. Skull Shaking Bellow. So we talked about this already. They can issue 3. So they can use the same command ability, but it's issued to 3 different units. Phenomenal, right? Like phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So good. Like triple all-out defense, triple all-out attack, just crazy. Triple all-out, triple triple standard shoot from the inner busting roar.
Yeah.
You've got it. 3 shots. And then they've got strength from victory, which if any models are triple rally. Triple rally is actually really interesting, Nath. Great shout. Yeah. Triple rally's phenomenal. At the end of the combat phase, if any models are slain by a wound caused by an attack, this is strength from victory. You get to add 1 to this unit's wound characteristic and the attacks characteristic of this unit's melee weapons, which is pretty great. Like as a thing, right? Because they can get more and more. The +1 attack to the melee weapons, does that include the Mighty Fists and Tail as well?
Excluding the mount. So it's only the chopper.
Okay.
Yeah. It specifically excludes the mount.
I have seen many people say triple all-out attack or all-out defense can't happen because of timings. What are your thoughts, Rob? Nathan Prescott, what are your thoughts?
When a unit is picked as a target, isn't it? So, probably. I don't know about the all-out defense actually, because that is activated when a unit is picked as a target of an attack.
Unless they split attacks. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So if you got your 3 Maw Crushers stood next to each other and they charge all 3.
Like a Mega Gargant, Nathan. Like a Mega Gargant. Yeah.
Yeah. Then maybe that wouldn't work.
All out attack.
What was the other one? All out attack.
Hey JP.
Oh. I don't know how that one's activated. Is that when you pick it
Just
to
work it out. Like it's fine. The one I care about is all out attack, not all out attack.
Mighty Destroyers.
Anyway. So great. Mega Boss and Maw Crusher is sweet as. Mega Boss and Maw Crusher comes in at points wise. Mega Boss on 480.
400.
So first one's going to have Amulet of Destiny, and the second one will have whatever you want. Triple Rally is funny, 100%.
First one's going to have the Destroyer Chopper.
No, he's not.
With the button, with the big red button on the side.
Just shut up.
I gotta push the button.
Anyway, Orruk Mega Boss is just a dude on foot, and he can only issue 2 commands. He's got 8 attacks. He's pretty fighty, but I'm sure you're going to take a Mega Boss or Maw Crusher anyway. I'm sure there's room for him because he is very fighty, but he's not a monster, and also Mega Boss or Maw Crusher is a monster. Also Bravery 8 on the Mega Boss or Maw Crusher, so you're likely to be able to do Heroic Recovery, which is quite nice. We'll just skip him anyway. He doesn't have anything different anyway.
Who's this? The Mega Boss on foot.
Yeah.
I mean, he is quite good for 140 points. He's only 140.
Oh no.
So, like for a small unit.
Yeah.
Can do loads of damage.
Right, the War Chanter. 6 wounds with a 4-up armor save. Has he got a better armor save now? Has he always had a 4? I think he's got a 4-up. He only moves 4 inches, which is a bit sad. But the key thing that you're always going to have a War Chanter in this list, because it's a force multiplier, is you can pick one friendly Ironjawz unit wholly within 15 inches of this unit. Until your next hero phase, add 1 to the damage inflicted by attacks made by melee weapons from that unit. A unit cannot benefit from this more than once. So this obviously increases the output of things like Brutes and Ardboys very significantly. Obviously, it also adds damage onto your Mega Boss or Maw Crusher as well, if you want. But there's an economy of scale where it works really nicely into hordes. Not that you can necessarily make hordes in AOS 3. But you would always see normally 2 War Chanters. They've also got some different war beats. So in addition, so you've got Violent Fury, which does that, and in addition you get war beats, which are basically prayers. You do on a 3-up. So you play a song, and you've got Fixing Beat, Getting Beat, and Killer Beat. Fixing Beat is a model within 12 inches, heal D3 wounds. Getting Beat is basically you can declare a charge from 18 inches on 3d6 dice, as opposed to 2d6 dice. And then Killer Beat is if this attempt is cast, one enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons that target that unit in that phase, which is pretty good if you get close enough, right? Oh yeah, sorry Zangor-Jack. Yeah. Obviously the best option for that +1 damage has always been on Gore Grunters because they have 2 melee weapon profiles, which I think is like because you basically, it's really good. Like each pig's got the most attacks, so when you have +1 damage, it's the best economy of scale.
Yeah, it's really good on Gore Grunters. It's still pretty good on a Maw Crusher. I mean, 8 and 7 attacks. It's a lot of damage, extra damage.
Yeah. It's. But the War Chanter is always going to be in a list. And I guess kind of the interesting bit is like we need to talk about the book released into the meta that it's launched into, and it's launched into a Sentinel meta. We'll ignore salamanders for a moment, or other things. But the likelihood that those War Chanters with 6 wounds survive is fairly low.
I think if you're the Orc player and they start shooting out your War Chanters and you're playing against Sentinels, you're like, carry on, mate, because you don't need those. Because elves are really puny, you're just going to bash them anyway. So if they shoot the war chanters, then it means the Maw Crushers are feeling more healthy when they get there. Whereas if you're fighting something like Mega Gargants, that's when you want your war chanters alive, because you need to be getting the damage out. Like, it's much harder to chop up a Mega Gargant than it is to chop up a little elf with the bow.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to get at is when you look at the book, you think, oh yeah, I'm going to take the sub-faction where I'm going to buff up loads of Brutes and or loads of Ardboy units and then throw them in. And I think which is why, like, in your headspace, you've already got the 2 or 3 mega bosses on Maw Crushers already in your head. But, like, you can build a list where, because the book lets you, it even gives you options. It's like, oh, by the way, do you want to do Violent Fury on 3 different units? You're like, yeah, I'm going to take, like, a bunch of Brutes because actually they're really cool. And I'll buff them up. You're like, okay, but that works quite badly into the meta. It doesn't mean you can't build it and you can't have a great time playing it. It's just unfortunate that I would say that the War Chant is one of those situations where, like you say, target priority as well. If you're running the Brutes, they're going to be much slower. The Brutes are going to be much, much slower than the Mega Boss or Maw Crusher. So they'll have time to shoot out your main. Go on, after you.
Yeah, well, your main piece in that army is going to be your wizard. That's going to get you the movement. You're going to rely heavily on the Hand of Gawk.
Yeah.
Really. Whereas my argument is, if you're fighting an army that's full of Sentinels, they are a fragile army, so you don't really need the War Chanter buff. You just need to get there and start hitting them.
Mm.
Because once you do that, then it doesn't matter. So I can see what you're saying, that the War Chanters look vulnerable, but I think in those matchups you don't need the War Chanters anyway. So if they do pick on the War Chanters, then you probably that's probably poor on their behalf. They're better off trying to stop the things that are going to move rather than War Chanters.
Okay, yeah. Agreed. So, interesting point about the War Chanter. Obviously, so important in maybe putting in a list. And even maybe worth putting in a list so they just shoot the War Chanter first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then they're not doing everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the Uruk Win Obshaman is what Nathan's talking about. He's got, he's only a one-cast wizard, which is weird as shit. Not sure why. If this unit is within 12 inches of more than 10 or more other friendly Ironjawz models, at the end of the first phase, it can attempt to cast a green puke spell in addition to any other spells, which is a range of 2d6 inches and cast on a 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 point on the battlefield, and some units take d3 mortal wounds. Pretty terrible.
So, yeah, it used to be good when you used to get that Mad as Hell thing, but you don't have that anymore.
No, you don't have that anymore.
So that, yeah.
Right, okay, so this is where I was like looking at the book, and I was like, okay, I like what I'm seeing so far when I was like looking at it, and then I actually think they've done a good job, right? The Brutes, the Ardboys, and the Gore Grunters. Gore Grunters obviously much faster than the Ardboys and the Brutes, but they've put something in here which is nice to like do exactly what I was complaining about with the Stormcast book, in that they play differently, which is quite nice. And I think, and they've got some cool little additional rules. So you've got the Uruk Brutes, which have got 3 wounds each and a 4-up save, which is great. And then they've got 2 different kind of special abilities. They've got generally you've got Brute Choppers on or Jagged Gore Hackers. You've got one or the other, right? Yeah, and I would take Jagged Gore Hackers, and then you've got your unit champ who's got a different weapon, and then you've got one other dude with a different weapon, right? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah.
So you've got...
That's right.
So in a unit of 5, because you get 5, you get 3 of either Brute Choppers or Jagged Gore Hackers, 1 Gore Chopper, and then either 1 Boss Chopper or Boss Claw on it. So I don't know about you, but I would go for the Jagged Gore Hackers. They're 2-inch reach, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, Rend 2, damage 1.
Yeah, it's the extra Rend is really good on that. So you got 1 less attack, but you've got extra reach and Rend. So mine are all modelled with the choppers at the moment, and I'm a bit sad because I think the Rend is more useful.
Far more useful. It's okay, Nathan. No one will know. Just say they've got the Gore Hackers. Everyone will be like, cool.
Really long knives, yeah.
Thank you to BMAP, by the way, for resubscribing. And then the Gore Chopper, so 1 special weapon in the unit is 3 attacks, 4s, 3s, Rend 2, damage 2, which you go up to damage 3, which is nice. And then the Boss Chopper or the Boss Claw and Brute Smasher are basically the same. They're Rend 1 and damage 2. One of them, one's more attacks but hits on a 4. I would choose the one that's 3 attacks and hits on 3s.
Yeah. But everybody's modelled the one with the claw at the moment, so...
Rubbish.
Again.
Rubbish. But they've got 2 cool rules, right? You mess in enemy models with a wounds characteristic of 1 that are within 3 inches of this unit cannot contest objectives. Fantastic.
So good.
Right?
Yeah.
This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted it's strong, it's cool, it's thematic, and it makes the unit interesting. You're like, oh wow, I've really got to think around this unit because of a rule it has. Love this. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a strong rule, and it's going to be interesting to see it being played because it's a strong rule. I like it.
Oh yeah, me too. And then you got Duff Up the big thing, which is add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this unit that target a unit with a wounds characteristic of 4 or more, which is obviously also great into Gargs, great into the monster meta, or also the hero hammer meta. So +1 to hit, which means basically most of these attacks are already hitting on 2s. So that's really strong. And if you got the spell off to be wounding on +1 to wound, they could be 2s and 2s. And obviously, if you have a big war, maybe you could also have that as well. Uruk Brutes, I think, are in a fantastic place, Nathan. They're 3 wounds each, so that unit's 15 wounds on a 4-up save.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's great. 160 points, I think, probably right. So yeah, happy days.
Yeah.
Brutes are back in town. The brutes are back in town, boys.
Yeah. I think it's really good, especially like if you compare them to Gut Rippers, right? Gut Rippers are 20 points more. Yes, you get 5 more wounds with the Gut Rippers, but I think I'd rather have the the brutes all day, especially with Mighty Destroyers for a double move or a big teleport to get them up. Like a Mighty Destroyer's 8-inch move on these boys, which is quite nice. Well, a 4-inch move in the hero phase, then another 4-inch move is quite good. So yeah, love the brutes, and I think their rules make them super fun, and I think they're pointed pretty competitively.
Yeah. The only thing they're missing is a musician, really, for that +1 to charge. So you might want to get them beat going with these guys.
Yeah, or have that reroll charge trait around.
Yeah. That as well.
Again, I think what exactly you're in the right place. I think running the triple Maw Crusher or just 2 Maw Crushers, whatever, is much stronger than running a bunch of brutes. But I think you could build what subfaction is it called? A DeChopper's brute list that would just be so much fun to play. Like it would just be like, I got these 10 fucking lads. This war chanter's made them tough as shit, and you're going down, sunshine. Let's go, and it would just be amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're pretty scary on the primary objectives. So
yeah,
which are normally in the middle of the board. So they don't have that far to go. So they could be fun.
Yeah, it's really good. One of your favourite units in Age of Sigmar, I think, Ard Boys, move 4 inches, 2 wounds each with a 4-up save. They got a low bravery of 5, but they got 1-inch range on their choppers, 3 attacks, 4s, 3s, no rend. Sad face. Damage 1. They get +1 to charge from their musician. Standard bearer gives them +1 save, and they've got something to do with the champion. Up to 2 in every 5 models can also have a shield, which gives you a 6-up ward. And then if this unit's champion issues a rally command to this unit while it's wholly within 12 inches of a war chanter, you can return 1 slain model to this unit for each 4 instead of a 6. So these guys still come in 5s, or do they come in 10s now?
5s.
No, Ard Boys still come in 5s, yeah. But they're battle lines, so you can go up to a unit of 15.
Yeah. For 85 points. So they're quite cheap.
10 wounds for 85 points.
Really?
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. Pretty good. 15 attacks. Admittedly, no rend, but still.
And it's 4s and 3s.
I mean, for those points, I think it's nice to have the option. It's something I miss in the Gits, is there's no cheap battle line if you just want a cheap little unit. And these are a cheap little unit, and they're actually pretty tough unit as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Because really what they're doing is if you take the biggest unit you can, 15, you give them +1 damage, you're saying go kill pink horrors on objectives is what you're saying. You're not going to kill a Gargant.
Yeah.
But then the brutes already do that with their own allegiance ability, war scroll ability, way better without even killing them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the brutes are much more smashy, but if you want maybe more of a brick of bodies, then you've got these. Or if you just want little 5-man units to go and stand around and do things to trade with, these are little 5-man screens. They're great for that, or little 5-man blobs that you can leave behind to protect your backfield. And for 85 points, you can't complain because they're tougher than normal small little units.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can completely see taking some, they're great trading units as well. You just take 2 units of 5. They run on the center objectives turn 1. Your opponent charges them, and then now you're counter charging because you're playing Iron Suns, right? And you're hitting them with your big units in their charge phase, which they didn't want. So that sort of stuff. Hey, Colorado, big love. But yeah, I would argue that they're probably going to see less play over everything else in the book.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, the Drawn to the Wire. I like that ability. I think it's fun and quite thematic, but it's going to be harder to play around than the other ones. The Brutes one is just so obvious. It's just such a nice ability to use as well. So yeah.
Gore Grunters. And did they lose rend, or have they never had rend?
Who's that? Ard Boys. Yeah, they lost rend, so they've gained an extra attack. They've lost a point of rend, and they've become a little bit less skillful. hitting on 4s now instead of
Oh,
3s.
sad face. They really don't want you to buy those guys, right? Buy the brutes, boys. Okay, now we know. But they still put a night, like you say, like the Drawn to the War. They've given them something. Like there's some flavour in there, which is cool. So I'm vibing on that. The Gore Grunters, 5 wounds each with a 4-up save. They move 9 inches. These guys are phenomenal, especially with a War Chanter buff. You got the Pig Iron Choppers or the Jagged Gore Hackers. You're always going to take the Pig Iron Choppers because you get an extra attack. And it's 3s, rend 1, damage 1, but you're going to War Chanter them, so it's going to be damage 2. And then you've got the the Tusken Hooves, which is 4 attacks, 3s, no rend. Oh, wow, have they got +1? Yeah, it used to be if you charge, you got +1 to wound, so it was 4s to wound. So it's 3s and 3s now. Because it used to be 3s, 4s, and +1 if you charged. And now it's just 3s and...
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And now it's just 3s and 3s. But basically, per pig, you're getting 8 attacks, with half of them having rend. So if you do the War Chanter buff on them, it goes up to 8 attacks, damage 2, which is phenomenal. So I really like that. You get... and then you've got the Gore Grunter charge, which is basically each model in your unit you roll a dice for. On a 3-up, you cause a mortal wound.
So it used to be a 4-up, so that's nice. They've got fatter.
They've got fatter and more stronger. And it's also actually each unit within 1 inch. So if you do multi-charge, you'll do a mortal wound to 2 different units, right? Like, so if you get like a...
Oh, really? Yeah. After a model finishes charge move, roll dice for each unit within 1 inch of that model.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can go in sideways. It's per model, though. So you're unlikely to get more than one hitting 2 units.
But but like it's still nice, right? Like you chip an extra mortal wound over. I like the 2+ in Bloodtooths because you're charging with them all the time, says Angor Jack. So what he's talking about, if this model has if this unit has more than one model, roll determine if. Where does it say the 2+? You turn it into a 2+ somewhere, don't you? In this rule, I thought you did.
On the what? On the Bloodtooths?
Oh no, on the Gore Grunter charge.
No.
Yeah, you add 1 to the roll if the model is armed with a Jagged Gore Hacker. Sorry, if you take hackers, which you shouldn't do anyway, it becomes a 2+. Like you're making the unit perceptively worse for 1 mortal wound sometimes. I'd rather always take the extra attacks, in my opinion. Don't have to be right, just what I think. And then you've got more Gawks, Crushers, and you've got the Iron Skulls Boys. Which are Underworld's warbands stuck in here, and I'm sure they're probably cheap and shit, and they don't have anything.
Then I've got the Iron Skulls Boys, and for 80 points, I'd probably take them, as opposed to spending 85 points for.
What I mean is
if you just want a small unit,
they're a 5-man unit like the Ard Boys, if that's what you want from them, right?
For a trading, they're probably better because they got more rules. So
Right. Okay.
But it's minuscule.
Let's talk about Ironjawz overall. I'm just looking at the time, so maybe we'll just do this one. We'll just do this one today because I think it's been a pretty nails conversation, and it would just be dragging out. And I'm really excited about doing the other one, so I kind of want to go at it with full energy. So Twitch chat, time for you to talk to me about what you think. Nathan, what do you think overall? Like, you've had some time with the kind of army. Have you written some lists, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I've not been too serious with the lists, but I think there is a list. Where have I put it now? A triple Maw Crusher list that I did, which was 3 Crushers, 2 Chanters, 2 units of Ard Boys, 1 unit of Brutes, 2,000 points. Give them the stuff. Give them all the jazz that they need. One of the guys going to have the big axe with the red button on the side. He's going to be on the attack Maw Crusher.
The classic attack Maw Crusher. The one you always know and love.
Yeah, with a big red button on the side of him as well. So 2 big red, and he's just going to push the red button. And then, you're just going to end up with 3 Maw Crushers in your face. Turn 1. Probably souped up, so Rend 2, Rend 3, Rend 2 and 3. Loads of War Chanter buffs on them. And if you don't deal with them, before your charge phase is ended, they'll be charging you again. So yeah.
Correct. Would you run it as Bloodtooths?
No, Iron Suns. That would be yeah. So basically, it's to go in, smash the hell out of everything, and then whatever's left, a bit of backup or charge in because it's going to get charged in your turn.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting take. I think there's a really fun version with a bunch of brutes, war chanters, and one more crusher, or maybe even get ready mega boss on foot. So that you can achieve. I think you always need one monster anyway because you're gonna do monstrous takeover at some point, and it's just the easiest fucking 2 victory points you're ever going to achieve in any war game ever. Maybe other than run 3 units, but a Blood Tithe I saw that failed twice. So. How
did they fail?
It's a great question. But I think you could take a bunch of brutes. Do I think taking a bunch of brutes, war chanters, and a mega boss on foot is a good idea competitively? No. But I do like that the book feels like it's got 2 varieties in it. This is before we even talk about Big War. It's got this, whereas I feel like that there's you're hacking together a version of a Cruel Boys list that isn't Bolt Boys. You know, you're like, right, okay, so I'm going to take the Shaman, right, okay, yeah, I'm going to take the Gut Rippers. Gonna try and roll some bravery, okay? Or I'm just gonna shoot the fuck out of your Bolt Boys. Like this has got more variety in there, which I think is quite nice. It's fairly simple as well, and it's got you can play against the brute hordes, and you're like, oh no, my 1 wound dudes on the objectives are going to be useless. Like that's actually a really interesting challenge. Versus you play against the triple Maw Crusher, and you think, okay, this is just going to slam into me turn 1. This is really interesting. And I think actually that's
And my 1 wound dudes are going to be useless because they're all going to be dead.
Hey, Honest Wargamer, stop ferocious advance shaming me. I failed that one. It's tricky. I'm sorry, Subworks. I apologize. Yeah. 3 points because you did it with a monster. Thanks. Not for ferocious. For ferocious advance, yes, but not for monstrous takeover. Or you could take a more like average list, not average, sorry, more mixed arms list, like Brad Pitt Lord suggesting: 2 more crushers, 2 war chanters, 3 times 5 R boys, 10 brutes, 2 times 3 pigs, and you could try and run more of a grab list, like we've talked about before. Or I talked about today. I haven't talked about it before, other than today. So smash and grab lists, and maybe that's maybe the way to describe those 2 different builds that you see. I like what they've done with brutes. They've given them a cool extra rule. And I like what they've done with the Mega Boss Maw Crusher. Again, it's a limited amount of war scrolls ultimately, and I like Foot of Gawk. I think it's fun. So ultimately, I think I think it's a pretty cool list, a pretty cool way to play these. Do I think it's going to get dull a year down the line? Maybe. I'm
never going to get dull. Pushing that red
that big red button's never going to get dull, baby. And I also think it's got like a good skill cap as well. You know, the counter charging, I think, is actually like you're going to put yourself with redeploy, counter charging. You've got like and also Mighty Destroyers and a teleport. You've got 4 tool sets to intermix as a player that I think actually will be pretty challenging to play against for someone who plays a lot. So I think actually it might be fairly repetitive, but you might have the skill, you might have the tool sets in that like section of War Scrolls and abilities to actually do something really fun over the course of like several games.
Yeah, and also it relies a lot on all your movement. So you've got loads of movement. So if you're moving stuff around, it just is more of a fun game than just not doing that. So for you as the Ironjawz player, I mean, like the Luminous players that play with the 4 foxes, they're having a great time because of all the movement that they get to play with.
That's true.
So
it's true.
So as an Ironjawz player, with all this, it's the triple commandability thing that they're given the mega boss on the Maw Crusher is just because I think they've actually slimmed that war scroll down a bit, and it's probably slightly weaker across the board until you get to that one point there, and then it's just like a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think even though change to the war, I don't think they intended to create a safe stacking meta. But the fact that you got the additional rend over the attacks actually puts them it puts them in a better place because that additional damage plus the rend, you can actually chop through a ton of stuff like really, really well. I worry about things like Legion of the First Prince as counters. We'll ignore Sentinels. We'll just ignore those. We're seeing a lot of Khorne Demon Princes in a lot of different lists. So I would be tempted maybe for the reroll charge command trait. I really would. Because and for everyone at home, the Khorne Demon Prince is units wholly within 18, half run, maybe just within 18, half run and half their charge roll, which is their command ability. It's an aura, so they basically activate it and then they just kind of create this like null zone around them. And of course, if you guys don't charge, if Ironjawz don't charge, then they're not winning. So that's something to be conscious of. But it doesn't really matter when your Mighty Destroyer is right next to them, right? We'll do Bone Splitters next week because I'm actually really excited about Bone Splitters. I don't think it's I don't think it's super exciting, but I think actually it's better than it was. Better is strong. Hold on. I think it's more interesting than it was. Right, is what I'm gonna say. But maybe that's just because I'm super excited about one War Scroll. Literally, one War Scroll is all I care about. Yeah, and that is the Wargog Prophet and the Wargog Mask. Because if I'm reading this right, I can just take 6 of these?
Yep.
Sign me the fuck up. Sign me the fuck up. Yeah? Right?
It's mad.
Sign me up! Yeah. Like, you told me I'm not going to go have the most fun. I'd imagine getting hammered with 6 Wargog Prophets by, Game 3, you're just a bit plastered, yeah, and someone charges your screen, and you're like, I'm going to stare the fuck out of you now, kid. You're dead. We might play a Wargog Prophet game next week or something. That'll be really fun to do. But anyway, yeah. So I'm quite excited about it. I think it's going to be really fun to look at. Thanks, Twitch chat, for hanging out with us today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, leave some comments, post it on to your local Facebook group with your mates and be like, oh, these guys are talking about Ironjawz. They're all right, guys. And that sort of jazz. That'd be fun. Nathan, you got any shout-outs you want to do before we head out today? Twitch chat, thanks for being great, by the way.
I'll just shout out Tom. Obviously, I played a game against him with that fellow with the horse dragon thing.
Archeon.
And the bird with the 2 heads, yeah.
Archeon,
them.
for God's sakes.
Yeah, it was nice to play against them.
Good. Okay, good. Excellent. I'm going to shout out everyone in the chat. Love you guys. Thanks to YouTube Thugs and the Podcast Hydro Homies. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast and everything's going well. Thanks for tuning in. I might have a...
See everybody at Bobo on the weekend as well. Shout out that.
Yeah. Also Bobo this weekend, which we'll be doing live coverage from, or won't, depending on, yeah. And also Benjamin in the chat's like, oh my God, you're such a terrible take about Bone Splitters, but it can't be a terrible take because he's staying at my house this weekend. So it's a great take, Benjamin. It's a great bet. I won't give you a towel to shower with. Yeah, so I'll see you guys at the weekend. And also, another little exciting thing. I don't know if you guys remember, but when we did Age of Sigmar 2, quite an exciting conversation we had between Nathan, who's like big red button on the original, on the Age of Sigmar 2 Ironjawz book. We had Leo Ratunen from Team Fiction. He came on and he literally described the book in a completely different way, where he was running it as like a defense. Nathan's an aggro blocker, and Leo is a defensive blocker, is how he plays. So Leo's actually going to come on at some point this week, I think maybe Wednesday, and he's going to have his conversation about these piggies that he's done. And Leo also won like Bloodshed in the Shire with his Ironjawz list, which was Ironjawz, not Big War. So it'll be cool to have him on. So this isn't the end of our Uruk content. Next Monday, we'll do the Bone Splitters. So thanks, everyone. You're all brilliant. Nathan, just love you, buddy. Also, don't forget, next Monday, we might not even do Bone Splitters next Monday because Nathan's got a battle report, 5 of them from the weekend to talk about. So we'll see you guys then. Everyone have a nice day.
I might still be playing them. Yeah.
Monday night! Still playing. See you guys soon. Bye.